Welcome to Health, Wellbeing and Lifestyle, where professionals in the field inform, educate and inspire the community to be healthier and have a balanced lifestyle. Our first guest today is Julie Makin, a psychotherapist specialising in hypnotherapy, and we will be exploring whether rejection is sabotaging your self-esteem. Welcome, Julie. It's so great to have you.
Lovely. Thanks very much for having me.
So what is rejection?
Okay, so rejection is a feeling that we get within our bodies. So when we feel it and when it comes up for us, it's kind of like an internal wound. And when it's touched, when something happens to us within our environment and that wound is touched, it really hurts. That can also trigger the brain's same process. So that might trigger that feeling in the body, that pain and hurt within the body. So it is actually felt as a physical pain.
And what is self-esteem and how is it impacted by rejection?
A lot of people actually seem to get confused between confidence and self-esteem. And confidence is confidence in abilities. So when you're a fantastic cook, you're great in the kitchen, but take you out of the kitchen and put you in, to be a car mechanic, and all of a sudden you're not so good. You're not going to have confidence there, but you have confidence in the kitchen. Self-esteem is about how you value and perceive yourself. It has to do with the stories that you tell yourself. I don't matter, and I'm not good enough. And when we're telling ourselves these stories, it actually affects how we feel about ourselves internally. And when we feel about ourselves that way internally, our body language changes, our energy changes, and it affects the way not only you perceive yourself, but how others treat and perceive you. The way that rejection affects low self-esteem. I'd like to tell you just a little bit of a story about myself. Look, I grew up in a household where my parents would be gold standard parents, all right? So what they taught me was, to be compliant. They taught me to do as I was told. They taught me that other people matter, to put others' needs ahead of my own, that not to talk over anybody else because that would be rude. But in actual fact, what they were teaching me was that I don't matter, to put everybody else ahead of me. And what I can tell you is that in order to be authentic, to feel good about yourself, you really need to be asking yourself, is this right for me? And checking back in with the body and how it feels. Find that reconnect with the body. I grew up with IBS. So I really started to notice it back in high school. I had this mass bad pain in my gut. It was seriously like a 9 out of 10. And I found myself going past the empty classrooms. It was recess, past the metalwork room, past the woodwork room, past the kids that were out there playing t-ball, and I didn't think I was going to make it to the reverse charge, phone, because I wanted to call my mum. Anyway, I got down there, was able to call my mum. My mum came and got me, and by the time I got home, the pain had subsided. I felt safe at home. So rejection not only has you feeling a pain and hurt about how you value and perceive yourself, but your body also responds to it. It helps you to escape. The IBS would actually help me escape the school ground. It helped to show me when I don't feel safe. And just to lead on from there, as an adult and understanding how rejection affects my body, and when somebody else is attacking you, your body shouts loudly when needed. And it's up to us to listen. So rejection, self-esteem, your body's letting you know. Now, because I was brought up in that family, I'm going out there into the world with that conditioning. And so I'm actually attracting people to me that are perhaps wanting to manipulate me. And They know it from your body language. They know it in how you speak about yourself, how you approach others. And you may find manipulative people that will take advantage of you. And I do feel that this is where domestic violence actually comes into play. To me, mental health and that feeling of safety is really number one priority for our community, for our society, for our government to start listening.
If someone's been rejected, how can they rebuild their self-esteem? Can you tell our audience how they can build their self-esteem, what they can do?
Of course. Okay, so when somebody's feeling hurt and pain, it's from a previous wound. So I invite them to start asking themselves, is this safe? Do I feel safe? First question. And the other question is this right for me? Yeah, it's really important. Once you start doing that, innate boundaries will start coming in as you start to heal yourself, and you'll find that things change. Yes, there might be pushback from others around you because, oh my God, all of a sudden you're, not being so subservient. You're starting to listen to what is right for you. And when you do that and you continue to do that, others around you will start to change how they approach you, how they respond to you. And another thing that I invite your audience to do is if they have any feeling like their emotions are feeling overwhelming, or perhaps there's a situation where their emotions are more than what the situation requires, I really invite your viewers to seek a professional therapist. Go to pages where people have association membership to ensure that you're seeking out the right professional assistance. And I invite viewers to also note that people who work with the body, I feel that that's where it's at. I feel that trauma, Bessel van der Kolk, he's massive in the US, big psychiatrist, and he notes that trauma cannot be healed from conscious mind therapy only. We need to start working with the body as well. So please seek professional therapy.
That's really helpful, Julie. Thank you so much. If you would like to know more about rejection and self-esteem, and Julie Makin, please visit her webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. And after the break, we'll be back with another interesting guest and another interesting topic.
Stay tuned. After the break, trauma therapist and author Melissa Hiemann will be talking about how trauma affects our finances and our relationship with money. Welcome back. Our second guest, Melissa Hiemann, is a trauma therapist and author, and the topic we'll be discussing today is how trauma affects our finances and relationship with money. Welcome, Melissa.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Melissa, how does early trauma affect our relationships with money?
Yeah, so I guess before I go into that, I'll explain about what trauma is. So trauma can be any stressful or very emotional response that we have growing up, and those strong emotions embed in our nervous system, in our body, a strong belief about ourselves and the world. So for example, with money, if we grew up in a family where our parents and our family was always saying, oh, our rich uncle, he's so evil, he's so bad, he doesn't share his money, I might grow up thinking, well, if you have money, you're a bad person. And so in that particular case, I will make sure I don't have lots of money because unconsciously I don't want to be a bad person. Another belief could be that, so say I grew up in poverty and I grew up, we didn't have much money, we were always scraping by. That will normalize to me. I will believe that is what it's like to be in a family, to live, that you're always stressing about money, fighting about money and never having enough. And so we can take that generational trauma with us into adulthood and just recreate those beliefs.
Melissa, how does money management affect our relationships with other people?
Firstly, we have a relationship with money ourselves, And so when we relate with money, maybe we might be anxious, maybe we might want to hold on to money, maybe we want to get rid of it all, and we don't know why. And how this can affect us in relationships if we both have conflicting conditioning or trauma from growing up on how to manage money, then it's going to get really frustrating. And there's high rates of divorce because of financial issues. So for example, if there's a relationship where a husband and wife, they both manage money very differently, there might be a lot of conflict in the house around it. And so for example, one partner always wants to go buy designer clothes and outfits and get rid of all their money, and the other partner always wants to save and make sure that they have enough to eat, roof overhead. And so if the partners are fighting around that, two things will happen. They might lose their relationship with each other, or they're just a high conflict. It's not very nice. And also the kids might be watching that, and the kids are watching that relationship and thinking, wow, money causes a lot of fights. When I get into a relationship when I'm older, we're just not going to talk about money, you know, or we don't want to, I don't want to have money because it causes fights. And that continually gets passed down. The other thing can be in terms of our own relationship with money. It's like, do we trust that more money is going to come in, or do we hold on to it? Because some people have trauma around money has been stolen from them, and because of that, they constantly get rid of all their money in their account because they have this trauma, they have this fear. And then someone else might have, grown up with poverty, and they come to, say, Australia, and they have all these opportunities and they start making money, but they keep all the money and they don't even look after themselves properly because they want to hoard all of the money. They don't trust that more is going to come. It can be very triggering when you're in a relationship with someone that has different conditioning and traumas and emotions around money. It can cause a lot of arguments and fights. So some specific examples of money mismanagement might be someone that is gambling. So what can happen is that maybe when they first gambled, they got a very strong positive response, positive chemicals like dopamine. They're like, oh, this feels amazing. And then what happens is, even though they start getting rid of their money, their brain has this very strong file, this very strong memory, that this gives you a very positive experience and you get lots of money out of it. And that's why these people will keep gambling until they might lose their family, their house, their relationships, because they're chasing that initial dopamine release. And the same can be with just spending in general. Like, women like to go shopping and spending. I think it's quite natural. I think it comes from the hunter-gatherer days where we were gatherers. Kind of want to go out and gather still. And so basically what happens is we might spend a lot of money, look at our account, feel shame about that money mismanagement, and this can go on for years and years. Maybe it started happening in our early 20s when we first started making money. And so then what happens is, when we see that, as soon as we get a bit of money, we want that dopamine release again. We don't want to feel that shame and that guilt. And so it's self-perpetuating. The way that we deal with that shame and that guilt of we've mismanaged our money again is we actually go and do the exact thing that's causing it and go shopping to try and feel better. So these specific issues, when you bring them into a relationship, you can imagine for a person that doesn't understand why they're having those trauma responses and why they're doing certain things, even though it's sabotaging their life, it's going to be very hard when their partner is like, why are you doing that? And it's conflicting with the family goals or having their basic needs met.
Melissa, what advice do you have for our viewers that might be experiencing money management problems due to trauma?
So firstly, you can get an indication of maybe your relationship with money, your personal relationship, and we speak about it in terms of attachment. So do you have an anxious attachment with money? Are you always checking your account to make sure the money's in there? Or do you have an avoidant attachment with money? Maybe you hate checking your bank account, you avoid it at all costs, you avoid looking at your money or having any financial education. And there can be so many grey areas in between there. Maybe you love money more than anyone else, and you just do bad things to try and get as much money as you can. Because of trauma, you feel some kind of deficit, that you aren't worthy. without money. So when you get those indications and clues as to, yeah, maybe I do mismanage money, maybe I have some shame, if you can work through that shame and you can maybe reach out to a financial counsellor, which are actually free in Australia, you can start to work through that and maybe start reading about money, because when we don't understand something, then we can be scared of it. You know, if we don't understand how to invest and what that's actually like without the emotions, then we're not going to do that and look after our future selves. So the first step is release the shame and then get education and support around that.
Thanks, Melissa. That's such a hot topic. If you'd like to know more about how trauma affects our finances and relationship with money and Melissa Hiemann, please go to her webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. And after the break, we have another interesting guest with another interesting topic.
Stay tuned. After the break, root cause and somatic therapist Nicole Healy will be talking about finding safety and peace for yourself when you have a loved one experiencing addiction. Welcome back. Our last guest is root cause and somatic therapist Nicole Healy. She will be talking about finding peace and safety for yourself when a loved one is experiencing addiction. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you for having me.
Is it possible to find safety and peace for yourself when a loved one is experiencing addiction?
It can be, but firstly I want to speak into addiction. So addiction is any behaviour that we have a craving for, that when we participate in that behaviour we feel relief, and we will continue to do it even if it has heavy consequences on other areas of our life. It's also important to note that addiction does have a spectrum, so on the lower end of that scale will be things like scrolling on your phone, maybe using food to comfort yourself. On the higher end of the spectrum is things like alcohol, drugs, gambling and porn that obviously have a heavier impact on your life and usually do carry quite a stigma. Now, I realised with myself as I went through my own healing journey that I was using food for a lot of my life to soothe myself. It was my addiction. And that started when I was 4 years old and my father passed away in a car accident. And we had a lot of people come to support us, to give us love, and they brought food. And of course, it's always the yummy treat type of food. So I was trying to recreate that love and support throughout my life. Any time that I felt like I was anxious or overwhelmed or went through something challenging, food became my source of support. So when you think about addiction like that, I hope it helps you to maybe give yourself some compassion for maybe your own behaviours, and to hopefully see your loved one as addiction not being something that is bad about them, but it's a coping mechanism. Now, when we think about loving someone in addiction, it is a long-term traumatic situation, and you will most likely be going through trauma, and this will affect you in ways you don't maybe realise, like your nervous system, the way your body responds. Now, addiction is like a roller coaster. And we think about our loved one and it's crisis, things are okay, maybe they drop low, like a roller coaster, and it continues over and over, and it really has no, I guess, formal way that it goes. We don't know what each day is going to bring, so we're holding on, bracing ourselves, and usually us loved ones jump on that roller coaster with them, trying to support them, trying to be there for them. So can you imagine what happens to our nervous system, to our body, when we're on that roller coaster, riding the highs and the lows, but we don't know when they're going to happen? Our nervous system goes into a survival response.
So how can this affect our nervous system?
So typically there are 4 different states the nervous system can respond in, which will be fight, flight, freeze, fawn. And we don't choose which one we go to. This is just our body trying to survive. It can sometimes refer back to how we responded, maybe like me in childhood, but we don't really know. So there's no shame around what comes up for you, how you are adapting or surviving, but understanding that those responses are exactly how they sound. So freeze, you might feel stuck. You might feel unable to make decisions. You might set goals and not be able to do them. Flight might literally be that that you will avoid everything. Run away from it, get me out of here. Fight, going to fight. And that could look like your loved one has maybe just gambled or done the thing that's the problem, and you will find yourself in combative mode. And then fawn, we really are like a fawn. We're cowering, we're sinking away, we're usually in silence. And these responses are literally survival. So understanding that, I hope you can see that it is your body's way, your nervous system's way of trying to protect you. It's nothing to be ashamed of. But what we can do is actually start to give the nervous system support. And that can come in the form of seeking a somatic therapist. It can come from doing beautiful things like calming the body with the breath, taking a gentle walk, not trying to force the body to be one way or another, but just accepting it. Okay, I'm in flight mode. This is okay. This is where I am. How can I support myself to navigate this? Because when we label it with shame, it quite often can make it feel heavier and it can keep us stuck. So compassion to self, once again, is always crucial when we're supporting ourselves. It could also be the phone rings at 2 a.m. and you can feel your body go into maybe a freeze response. Too scared to answer it because you don't know what you're going to hear at the other end. Almost like if you think of yourself being on that addiction roller coaster, you're holding on to that guardrail for dear life, bracing yourself for whatever is going to come next. And there is a lot of chaos when we love someone in addiction. We know that. So being kind to yourself, if you can't follow through on goals you set, if you can't communicate calmly sometimes because you feel yourself go into that fight mode and you're overwhelmed, we can shame ourselves for those responses. But when we understand them, that's when we can start to nurture ourselves and give them the space that they need to maybe allow you to show up in ways that you want. So the phone rings at 2 a.m. and maybe you go, it's okay, it's just a phone call. We're not going to get ahead of ourselves. Your loved one does something that maybe initially you might feel a bit of anger or fear. You can calm yourself. Think, okay, how do I want to respond to this rather than react? We can give ourselves some space and some kindness.
So what advice do you have for someone who is looking to find that sense of safety and sense of peace while also loving someone who's going through addiction?
I think the first thing is going, it's okay. I'm in survival mode. I have been through a lot of things. I'm trying to navigate things in a way that are helping me get through really challenging situation that we didn't choose to be in. And then looking outside of ourselves, seeking professional support, maybe looking into somatic support as another beautiful way to help yourself. And once again, always just being kind to you, giving yourself some grace and nurturing the parts of you that maybe need it the most, which is usually the parts that are screaming at us. Don't shame them. Try to give them some love.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Nicole.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you would like to learn more about finding safety and peace for yourself whilst loving someone who is experiencing addiction, or find out more about Nicole, you can visit her webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au, and we'll say goodbye until next week.
If you'd like to know more about our show, please like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.